You have an outstandingly good voice.
Thank you very much.
How old are you?
17.
I mean, that's unbelievable. Jonathan, you are a future star.
They stepped onto the stage as two shy, unassuming teens, and walked off as one of Britain's most unforgettable musical duos. But while their harmonies captivated millions on Britain's Got Talent, the real story was far more complicated. Behind the standing ovations, record contracts, and teary-eyed performances, something was shifting beneath the surface. What truly unfolded between Jonathan and Charlotte once the stage lights dimmed? Was it loyalty or limitation? Stardom or separation? This deep dive unpacks the twists, turns, and untold truths behind a duo whose rise was as stirring as their silence. From a judge's startling critique to the echoing quiet that followed their fame, this story goes beyond the headlines. Get ready for revelations that will challenge what you thought you knew about these two extraordinary voices. Because sometimes, behind the most powerful performances, lie the deepest questions. Before the glow of talent shows and media buzz, Jonathan Antoine and Charlotte Giaconelli were simply two music-loving teens at West Hatch High School in Chigwell, Essex. Both were passionate vocalists, but had never performed together, until a pivotal decision by their music teacher changed everything. Jeanette Brown, their instructor, didn't know it then, but her simple idea would ignite one of the UK's most beloved musical partnerships. The moment wasn't born from a talent show or big audition. It happened at Brown's wedding. Wanting her students to sing, she asked Jonathan and Charlotte to perform The Prayer, a technically demanding and emotionally rich duet. Up to that point, neither had seen the other as a duet partner, but everything changed with that performance. From the first notes, something clicked. Jonathan's deep operatic tenor and Charlotte's warm theatrical soprano blended in a way that stunned everyone in the room. Their contrast created a harmony that was both surprising and powerful. For the teacher and the students alike, it was a discovery that felt almost accidental, yet somehow, completely meant to be. Looking back, Jeanette Brown would describe that moment as serendipitous. She never imagined a request for her wedding would spark such a journey. But after that performance, Jonathan and Charlotte began to see something more in their musical chemistry. It wasn't just a duet anymore, it was potential. With continued encouragement from mentors like Brown and vocal coach Jenny Ewington, they trained together and officially became a duo. That partnership, grounded in trust and growing talent, would serve as their foundation when they later auditioned for Britain's Got Talent in 2012. It was a school performance that quietly set the stage for a national spotlight, both figurative and literal. But just as their voices began to soar, a single comment threatened to tear it all apart: Cowell's infamous critique. When Jonathan Antoine and Charlotte Giaconelli made their debut on Britain's Got Talent, their rendition of The Prayer left the audience spellbound. But amid the applause came one of the show's most controversial moments. Simon Cowell, never one to sugarcoat, suggested Jonathan go solo, implying Charlotte might hold him back. The remark landed like a thunderclap. Cowell praised Jonathan's voice but cast doubt on Charlotte's contribution. At just 17, Jonathan didn't flinch. He stood firm, publicly declaring he wouldn't leave Charlotte behind. His loyalty became a national talking point and earned him admiration far beyond the music. Rather than divide them, Cowell's critique galvanized the duo. Week after week, they silenced skeptics with powerful performances, proving their bond wasn't just artistic, it was deeply personal. The emotional synergy they brought to the stage was real, and viewers felt it. Cowell, in time, came to see what millions already had. He would later admit Charlotte's voice complemented Jonathan's more than he initially realized. Jonathan himself would reflect on the moment, telling Express.co.uk that the Simon viewers see on TV is a far more provocative version of the kinder, more supportive man he came to know behind the scenes. Off camera, Cowell was a sweetheart, Jonathan said, revealing a much more layered reality than that tense audition ever suggested. Still, the moment left an impact, not just on their career, but on public perception. As their fame grew, so did speculation. Rumors swirled about a romantic connection between the young duo. Jonathan later shut him down, calling him creepy and even barfy. To him, Charlotte was like a sister. Their relationship had always been rooted in friendship and mutual respect, not romance. The moment on that stage didn't just define their sound. It defined their character. In an industry often driven by ego, fame, and competition, Jonathan and Charlotte stood for something else: authenticity, trust, and loyalty. Rising to the finals of Britain's Got Talent Season 6, Jonathan Antoine and Charlotte Giaconelli had gone from unknown teens to household names. Jonathan was just 17, Charlotte, only 16. But their very first performance had already shifted how the public saw them, from students to stars. Their performance of The Prayer, a piece immortalized by Celine Dion and Andrea Bocelli, was nothing short of spellbinding. Jonathan and Charlotte stunned not only the audience but the judges as well. Alicia Dixon called it world-class, while David Walliams praised the unique fusion. Jonathan's powerful operatic tones meeting Charlotte's clear, pop-tinged soprano. It wasn't just a strong debut, it was a revelation. They didn't just sing, they told a story. One of courage, connection, and undeniable chemistry. And that emotional authenticity set the stage for one of Britain's Got Talent's most unforgettable journeys. Despite Simon Cowell's early doubts, Jonathan and Charlotte remained a duo, and it soon became clear they had made the right choice. Their semi-final performance, a stirring rendition of Caruso by Lucio Dalla, showcased their growth as vocalists and performers. The judges were unanimous in their praise. Amanda Holden called it amazing, while Simon Cowell, doing an about-face, admitted that staying together had been the best decision. In that moment, the narrative flipped, from proving themselves to proving their critics wrong, with grace and talent as their only weapons. Winning the public vote that night secured their place in the finals. And fittingly, they returned to the song that started it all, The Prayer. This time, it wasn't just technically flawless, it was emotionally full circle. The performance felt like a culmination, polished yet deeply personal, a testament to how far they'd come. Their voices soared with newfound confidence. Their harmony was tighter, their bond visibly stronger. Sensational, David Walliams declared. Unbelievable, Cowell added, words that stood in stark contrast to his earlier critique. They didn't need special effects or gimmicks to captivate an audience. They had each other, and that was enough. Though they ultimately placed second to Ashley and her dancing dog Pudsey, many believed Jonathan and Charlotte were the true winners. What they gained wasn't a trophy, it was something more enduring: respect, admiration, and a legacy built on resilience, friendship, and sheer artistry. Their journey transcended competition. It became a story of overcoming doubts, others and their own. And the next chapter would prove that the real prize wasn't the win, but what came after. Riding the wave of their breakout success, Jonathan Antoine and Charlotte Giaconelli signed a reported $1 million record deal with Simon Cowell's label, Psycho Music. The announcement came just weeks after the BGT finale and confirmed what fans already felt: this duo wasn't going anywhere. Despite finishing second, their impact was undeniable. Their voices, their chemistry, and their emotional pull resonated not only with viewers, but also with industry insiders. Cowell, once skeptical, was now fully behind the pair, a clear sign they had exceeded all expectations. Their debut album, Together, was released in the UK in September 2012 and followed in the US a month later. Produced by Graham Stack, known for his work with classical crossover acts like G4, the album featured a mix of new material and familiar covers, including their signature rendition of The Prayer. The response was immediate. Together debuted at number 5 on the UK Albums Chart and earned praise for its rich production and the emotional depth of its performances, especially considering their age. Critics noted not only their technical ability but also the sincerity they brought to each track. A year later, in October 2013, they released Perhaps Love, their second album. It retained their signature blend of classical, pop, and musical theatre, but with one key difference: it allowed for more solo performances. These moments hinted at individual artistic directions, subtle signs of where their futures might lead. Even with these solo touches, the harmonies still held magic. Perhaps Love also reached number 5 in the UK, reinforcing their staying power and establishing them not as talent show alumni, but as credible recording artists. Their sound bridged genres and generations. Jonathan's operatic strength and Charlotte's theatrical warmth created a crossover style that felt both accessible and sophisticated. The albums weren't just commercial hits, they expanded the classical pop genre and brought it to a broader, younger audience. In just over a year, what began as a school duet had evolved into a commercially and critically successful recording career. It was the realization of a dream that, not long ago, neither of them had dared to imagine. By 2014, after 2 top-charting albums and a whirlwind rise to fame, Jonathan and Charlotte reached a pivotal and difficult crossroad. Though they had achieved more together than either had thought possible, their creative paths were beginning to diverge. As they sat down to discuss a third album with Sony Classical, a harsh truth emerged: they couldn't agree on a single track. Charlotte later recounted the moment in an interview with the Evening Standard. "We went to discuss our third album with Sony and sat there going through our repertoire, trying to agree on songs," she said. "At the end of the meeting, we realized that we couldn't agree on anything. It was a quiet revelation, but a powerful one. There was no falling out, no dramatic feud. Just 2 artists growing in different directions." Jonathan wanted to stay rooted in classical opera. Charlotte felt drawn toward musical theater and modern vocal work. The harmony they once shared was no longer just in sound, but now in question creatively. Sony proposed a solution: solo albums. For Charlotte, the idea came as a shock. "I thought, well, this puts a spanner in the works," she admitted. But over time, it became clear that this wasn't a setback, it was an opportunity. An honest reflection of who they were becoming. Both singers took time, about a month, to fully absorb the reality of the split. It was emotional, Charlotte acknowledged. But it wasn't about ego or resentment. It was about growth. The end of their collaboration marked the beginning of their individual journeys. A bittersweet transition, yes, but also a necessary one. "We went away and thought about it for a month. It was emotional," Charlotte later shared. "It's not like just because we don't make music together, we'll never see each other again." Still, the parting carried weight. After spending years side by side, transforming from unknown teens into national icons, stepping apart meant more than changing labels. It meant breaking the creative comfort zone they'd built since that very first audition. The farewell was quiet but significant, signaling the end of an artistic chapter that had once felt inseparable. Yet, through it all, there was mutual respect. They didn't shy away from acknowledging the magnitude of their journey. Charlotte admitted that going solo wasn't so much sad as it was frightening. A brand new beginning without the only musical partner she had ever known. Her thoughts echoed a universal fear shared by many artists, of facing the stage alone after years of shared applause. But ultimately, she believed it was the right decision. "We wanted to do different things," she said plainly. Their separation wasn't rejection, it was evolution. Like all coming-of-age stories, it was marked by growth, not bitterness. It was mature, it was real, and it allowed them both to explore their own artistic identities. Still, even the most graceful goodbyes leave behind unanswered questions, especially when time, fame, and distance begin to pull old bonds into the past. Though Jonathan Antoine and Charlotte Giaconelli had once shared a creative connection strong enough to carry them to the finals of Britain's Got Talent, life eventually led them in different directions. By the time they amicably split in 2014, following a UK arena tour and 2 successful albums, their paths had clearly begun to diverge. But fans kept wondering, did they stay in touch? In 2017, Jonathan appeared on ITV's Lorraine and addressed the question with honesty. "We don't really get to speak very often, but that's the nature of it," he said. His tone wasn't cold, just realistic. It was a reflection of the hectic schedules, constant travel, and personal transformation that fame brings. "My family comes everywhere with me, and they're my longevity," he added, subtly explaining how his support system had evolved over time. While some fans were disappointed to hear that their bond hadn't lasted off stage, it was also a reminder of how difficult it is to maintain personal connections in the relentless world of entertainment. Even so, there was no bitterness, just distance. Jonathan and Charlotte have never spoken ill of each other. In fact, the opposite is true. Charlotte has often credited Jonathan as essential to their success, saying they would never have made it through the BGT whirlwind without one another. Jonathan, too, has spoken warmly of Charlotte, reminiscing about how much they achieved together and the special connection they shared on stage. Though their careers now follow different tracks, their mutual admiration remains intact. It's a rare and commendable outcome in an industry where creative partnerships often end in conflict. Today, Jonathan Antoine stands as a successful classical crossover artist, headlining international tours and releasing acclaimed solo albums. While their professional lives no longer intersect, their legacy lives on. The magic they created on the Britain's Got Talent stage is still remembered, still celebrated. Though no longer a part of each other's daily lives, the story they wrote together continues to resonate, with each other and with fans who witnessed something truly special. After parting ways in 2014, both Jonathan Antoine and Charlotte Giaconelli launched solo careers that reflected their personal musical passions and individual strengths. For Charlotte, that next step led her straight into the world of musical theatre, where her voice, acting talent, and classical training could finally come together. Even before Britain's Got Talent, Charlotte had been training at Arts Educational Schools London, one of the UK's top-performing arts institutions. So, stepping into the theatre spotlight felt like a natural evolution. Her breakout moment came with Carousel in concert at the Royal Festival Hall, where her vocals earned praise for their emotional texture and strength. She soon landed a prominent role in the original UK cast of Heathers, the musical in London's West End. As Martha Dunstock, Charlotte showed a different side of her artistry, blending powerful singing with nuanced acting. It was a performance that earned her attention not just as a vocalist, but as a dynamic stage performer with range and depth. Charlotte's stage career continued to grow after Heathers, with standout performances like her role as Florinda in Into the Woods at Theatre Royal Bath. This production marked a turning point, showcasing her versatility in a darker, more mature setting. She was no longer just the sweet soprano from a TV talent show. She had become a seasoned stage performer, capable of navigating complex characters and emotionally layered narratives. Meanwhile, Jonathan Antoine remained deeply rooted in the classical crossover genre, where his rich, operatic tenor voice could shine without restraint. Just months after the duo's separation, he released his debut solo album Tenor in 2014 under Sony Classical. The album topped the UK Classical Albums chart, proving he didn't need a duet to captivate listeners. With Arias and classical standards, Tenor marked Jonathan's arrival as a solo artist of serious vocal substance. Critics praised the album for both its vocal power and the warmth that Jonathan had always brought to the stage. His follow-up album, Believe, 2016, took his talents even further, blending Italian operatic selections with sweeping orchestral arrangements. The album earned both critical and commercial acclaim and introduced Jonathan to a broader international audience. Jonathan's reach soon extended far beyond the UK. He began touring extensively across Canada and the US, where audiences were drawn to his commanding voice and sincere stage presence. One of his most memorable concerts, Beyond the Curtain, blended operatic staples with musical theatre classics, and even Disney tunes, allowing Jonathan's playful theatricality to shine. His collaboration with Grammy-winning songwriter Diane Warren on By Request, the Diane Warren Songbook, Volume 1 demonstrated a willingness to bridge opera with contemporary pop, reflecting his ongoing evolution as an artist. While Jonathan was filling concert halls and climbing classical charts, Charlotte was steadily carving her niche in British musical theatre. Though the classical music press didn't cover her as frequently, she earned a devoted following through live performances, a strong social media presence, and emotionally honest portrayals. Her work with the Royal Shakespeare Company and other respected theatre institutions reinforced her credibility as a performer who had long outgrown her teen TV star label. Their careers diverged artistically, Charlotte leaning into narrative and dramatic storytelling, Jonathan embracing vocal grandeur and cross-genre fusion. But both remained true to their passions. Charlotte's focus on immediacy and emotional truth gave her an authenticity that resonated with new audiences, especially in the theatre world. In 2022, Charlotte took a deeply personal step by publicly coming out as bisexual during Pride Month. She shared a powerful photo of herself wrapped in a pride flag on Instagram, accompanied by a heartfelt message. The response was overwhelmingly supportive. For someone who had grown up in the public eye, it was more than a personal announcement. It was a declaration of visibility, pride, and solidarity with the LGBTQ+ community in the performing arts. Beyond her identity, Charlotte has also used her platform to advocate for mental health awareness in theatre. Having experienced the transition from reality TV fame to the grueling demands of live performance, she has spoken candidly about the emotional toll and the importance of prioritizing well-being in creative professions. Her openness is part of a growing movement to create healthier, more supportive spaces in the arts. On social media, Charlotte mixes behind-the-scenes moments, personal reflections, and humor to build a relatable persona. Known for her wit and self-deprecating honesty, she invites followers into her world, not just as a performer, but as a person. Over the last decade, she has transformed from a schoolgirl soprano into a fearless, authentic voice in the theatre community. Her journey is not just one of professional success, but of personal empowerment. Charlotte's appeal lies not only in her talent, but in her courage, her willingness to live openly, to speak truthfully, and to embrace the ever-evolving path of an artist. Jonathan Antoine, once introduced to the world as a shy, opera-singing teen on Britain's Got Talent, has undergone a transformation just as striking as his voice. One of the most visible parts of this journey has been his remarkable weight loss, over 5 stone, more than 70 pounds, a change he achieved not out of vanity, but from a personal desire to live a healthier, fuller life. In interviews, Jonathan has been refreshingly candid about his path to wellness. "I've still got a lot to lose," he said, "but I'm making my way. I feel stronger and healthier than I have in 10 years. His transformation was not born from the pressures of fame, but from a deeper need for self-care and agency. He spoke openly about times when he felt overwhelmed and undisciplined, even describing one point where he was in a terrible state. His turning point came when he decided he was no longer content to move passively through life. He began exercising lightly, improving his diet, and reshaping his habits, both physical and emotional. Unlike many in the public eye, Jonathan didn't hide his struggles. Instead, he invited others to witness the process, showing that even great voices sometimes need to pause and take care of the person behind them. Jonathan Antoine and Charlotte Giaconelli's post-Britain's Got Talent journeys have been marked by personal and professional growth. Jonathan, now a celebrated soloist, has transformed both physically and emotionally. He shared his struggles with weight loss and personal growth, crediting his fans for their unwavering support. His journey reflects the power of reinvention and resilience, and his message resonates deeply with those who followed him from his teenage years. Charlotte, on the other hand, has continued to thrive in musical theatre, connecting with audiences through her emotional performances and candid social media presence. She recently made waves by sharing her bisexuality with fans, showing her authenticity and advocacy for mental health in the arts. Though their paths have diverged, both Jonathan and Charlotte continue to shine in their respective fields. Fans still wonder if a reunion is possible, and while nothing is confirmed, the magic of their collaboration on Britain's Got Talent remains unforgettable. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, leave a comment, like the video, and subscribe for more insights into your favorite acts.